What's up? What's up? What's up? This is your boy Cool McCain. As you can see, solo this week for this special Super Saturday episode of the Play Caller Sports Talk Show. You know, my co-host may be joining me for a portion of the show. He may not, but this is all going to be basketball talk. We're going to put a bow, wrap up the 2021-22 NBA season. As you can see from the background, the boys in the airport. Long story. Gonna keep the volume to a minimum just because, you know, I'm in an open environment. I don't want to affect anyone around me. A lot of things have been happening, a lot of craziness, but it's all good. It's all to the GOOD. So, per our normal introductions, let me get it out a little bit. This is your boy, Cool McCain, one half of the dynamic duo of interactive sports talk, the World Tag Team Champions. Let me repeat that, Tag Team Champions of interactive sports talk. And for those of you who have forgot, don't know, or just don't really remember, let me tell you who we are.
The Play Caller.
All right. So it's time to dig into this this NBA season. So of course we're gonna start at the end. The Golden State Warriors are the champs. Shout out to Steph Curry, the MVP, well deserved. Shout out to Andrew Wiggins, who was the best player besides Steph in this series. Shout out to, you know, Jordan Poole, some good games, some not so good games. Kevon Looney showed up. A lot of people showed up for Golden State. No shade. Obviously, I did not pick Golden State to win. I went with Boston. Hey, it happens. There was two teams. Half of us were going to be right. Half of us were going to be wrong. After game one, picks looked strong. After game three, picks looked strong. After that, Golden State did what Golden State does. I said last week, you cannot get into a situation with a team like Golden State where you're trying to outshoot them from three. You have to use the advantage. The last time that Boston truly used their advantage for an entire game, they won. That was in game three. Since then, Boston decided for whatever reason, forget using their strength. They were going to go and try to outshoot a shooting team when your advantage is in power inside. Did not work. For the first time in the playoffs, Boston lost back-to-back games, and it cost them a championship. You know, I'm not big on, you know, blaming one person. There was a lot of people on Boston that helped them lose that game. Boston is not currently constructed in a way to win a championship. You know, I think White should have been in the game as the closing point guard for most of the series. I understand why you had who you had in for defensive purposes, but at the end of the day, you win in games. And one of the ways you win games is actually have a floor general who's a distributor, a scorer, can also play defense, and not loyalty to a player because he's been there, and he does have his moments. I think being a rookie head coach finally caught up with Udoka once the adjustments were made by Golden State. Again, you know, I was wrong on that. It is what it is. I had a 50% chance of being right. I just wasn't. You know, when you look at Golden State, as long as Steph is there, they always have a chance. You know, if you look at last year, I told a lot of people last year and the year before, let's look at Steph. They're not winning as many games because main pieces aren't there with him, but he couldn't be stopped. So if you bring Clay back, you get a Jordan Poole playing the way he's playing, other guys stepping up in moments and making shots. You know, Gary Payton III, you know, had some games, different guys. It's almost impossible, you know, for a team with a guy like Steph to lose in that situation. One thing that could have helped was Boston. Boston was supposed to be a defensive juggernaut. I saw them lose that. Boston was supposed to be a team that was young, spry, attacking the basket, making good plays, making good decisions, you know, riding this hot streak. They got cold. When you're playing against teams where you have an advantage, you have to continue to use that advantage. Boston did not do that. Golden State took advantage of the situations. They realized they're going to try to come out here and outshoot us. This is going to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy, so to speak. And that's what it was. I mean, come on. When you're out there playing that way, you can't beat a team that's molded and built to play the way that you're attempting to play. What people need to understand, what teams need to understand, is very simple. If you want things to happen, you have to make them happen. Boston, you lost the series because you decided to not play the game that you needed to play, right? That's the main reason. Secondary reason that Boston lost is one Jason Tatum. First player ever, 100 turnovers in the playoffs. Another reason they lost, Jaylen Brown. I don't know the number, but a whole lot of critical turnovers. A whole lot of turnovers where you're like, bro, why are you turning the ball over? And want a quick shout out what's going on the Snowman in the morning with Cole Johnson for hopping in and checking us out on this special Super Saturday edition. But like I said, man, we're here all to talk about this playoff situation. It's crazy. Well, excuse me, not the playoff situation, but the NBA in general. Just, recapping the season. Boston, you should have been stronger. You should have been better. You should have done more. A lot of people say, well, Golden State is just blah, 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 and they have championship advantage and blase this and blase that. And you can say those things, right? Especially when the team wins or they win, and you can make up all those excuses. But truthfully, I think coaching might have suffered a little bit with Udoka being a first-year coach. And if your star player can't play, if he can't make buckets for you when it counts, how are you going to win the series? I didn't anticipate that. If you told me before the series, hey, I'm only going to tell you that Boston star player is not going to live up to expectations, I would automatically say they're going to lose. And Jaylen Brown didn't really do his thing on a consistent basis in the series either. So your top two guys can't get it done. If they can't get it done in the finals, you can't win. Name a team that's won when their number one and number two guys, or one of those two, don't live up to it. Look back at last year at Phoenix. Chris Paul got in the championship, and Chris Paul'd everybody. I told y'all he was going to do it, but nobody listened at that point. Chris Paul is another one of those guys that so far Jaylen Brown is, as well as, other guys on this Boston team, including Jason Tatum. They can't get it done in clutch time. Until you erase that, that's your narrative. That narrative follows all the wannabe great players. If you can't get it done in those moments, one of two things happen. Either you learn from it, or you become a choke artist. You become the guy that never gets it done. If that's the case, it is what it is. No problem, Snowman in the morning. No problem, bro. No problem. Just saying thanks for being a friend. Always, bro. Always. You look out for your peoples. That's part of the whole process. That's what we do around here. That's who we are. But really just disappointed in Boston. I'm happy for Golden State overall. My problem with Golden State, I've talked about multiple times. I don't like the way that they turn a blind eye to Draymond Green's antics most of the time, well, all the time. But then if somebody else has a hard play, hard foul, no matter the outcome, it's about being consistent. If you're going to let Draymond Green go out and do all the wild stuff that he does and you never really say anything to him, then for me, you jumping on and saying somebody else is bush league, somebody else broke a code is a joke. That's my problem with Golden State. But as a team on paper, as a story, as far as them doing what they need to do, they do that. And you can't knock them for that. They saw the opportunity. They made the proper adjustments. They won the series. Say what you want. Say what you will. Feel how you want to feel. Boston fans, Golden State fans, any other team. But at the end of the day, Golden State went out there for 4 games at least and played consistent, strong basketball and won. The series was 6 games, just the opposite of what I picked. Like I said, a lot of people did pick opposite of me. Hey, I feel you. It wasn't one of those things like, it's impossible for Golden State to win. They've been there before, that's true. But Boston, to me, they didn't step up. And you could say that part of it is Golden State. I haven't seen Golden State play monster defense at all. I've seen them have some decent team defensive performances. But, hey, when you go away from all the advantages that you have, you're going to lose. To me, that's what happened. Plain and simple. So shout out to them. Shout out to Steph for getting his MVP award. No shade on him. Not here to try to bring down a team when they win. It's not always a team you pick, but shout out to them for being the champs. Say what you want, but they are now your reigning and defending NBA champions. Period. Can't ever take that away from them. There's no asterisk. This isn't a bubble. This isn't a shortened season. This is a regular season. It is what it is. I will say one point. Milwaukee's a team I feel like is going to be a challenger next year, as well as the Denver Nuggets. For Milwaukee, Chris Middleton is healthy for at least half of that series. At least the last two games, 6 and 7. We're not even talking about Boston, right? We're not even talking about Boston. We're talking about Milwaukee. But that's not how things happen. Denver, if they had their two guys, we may be looking at a different scenario. But it's not how things happen. I don't go back and try to say, oh, this team doesn't deserve it because of this, or that team doesn't deserve it because of this. We're not getting all that nonsense. This is real talk on the play calls. You know what I'm saying? This is me giving it to you, real talk. Part of the real talk is simply this. The best team for how they play won. Shout out to them. I'll say it again and again and again. There's no questions. There's no arguments. There's no this person did this. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like that. Golden State went out there in front of our eyes, took advantage of what Boston did not do well, made them play their game, and beat them. Shout out to him for doing that. Shout out to Steve Kerr. One point of that I want to make, and I want everybody to understand is, say what you will about him as a person. Mark Jackson helped get that team together. Mark Jackson helped the coach of young Steph Curry, young Klay Thompson, get those boys up. And if you don't believe the organization knows it, why are they offering to send him rings when they win championships? Yeah. Do your research. They've offered to send him rings when they win championships because they know. And I'm not saying he would have won a championship with that team, but they know that he's the one that got a lot of those pieces together. He's the one that started those boys along that path of development when they were young. He's the one that started to get them in the playoffs. They weren't winning championships, but they were progressing. Take away what you want, but if you try to take that away from that man, then do you really even watch the sport of basketball, or do you just listen to what they say on the 3 and 4 letter networks? Form your own opinion, my good people. Form your own opinion. You watch the play callers, form your own opinion. It doesn't have to agree with mine. It could be completely different. But form your opinion, not Stephen A. Smith's, Skip Bayless's, Shannon Sharp's, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? Not their opinion. Give me your opinion and your reasons. Think for yourself. Don't be a puppet for anybody. You know what I'm saying? That's what we talk. That's what we do on play calls. You be you. If you're watching, post your comments, questions you have, anything you want to say about, what happened with the finals. We'll hop on those and we'll talk about those. I'm going to quickly switch over to something that's of some importance. It's about a team that has been talked about on other shows. We briefly talked about them. What in the world is going on with the Charlotte Hornets? You fire a coach, James Borrego, who you should not have fired because he's taken a team that doesn't have a true big man and he's made them relevant. It's a little late, but straight like that from Big E. What's going on, Big E? Appreciate you hopping on and watching as well, man. One love. I know it's a different day. Saturdays may be busier for some people, but everybody who can't hop on live and watch, appreciate you, man. Always enjoy the comments. Anything you want to say, anything you want to talk about in regards to the NBA season, this is your chance. This is that wrap-up show. But you fire James Borrego, who shouldn't have been fired. You go out and try to bring in coaches. A couple of people kind of shy you away. You get a guy in Kenny Atkinson. Kenny Atkinson wins the championship with Golden State and says, whoa. I think I'm going to just stay here. So what's funny is if you're going to fire a coach, right, especially a coach who really shouldn't be fired, then you need to bring in a better replacement, right? So are you now going after Quinn Cook? What are you trying to do? What you need to do something at coach. You need to bring in a name that can help you get players and help you win. Charlotte has not done that. That's why they're in the situation that they're in right now. They have a guy that doesn't even want to be their coach. I'll be your coach, fine. Then nah, I'm good. I don't want to be your coach. That's what you got. That's a shame. And honestly, if you're a Hornets fan, you should be upset. But understand and see through the mist. People run around all the time. Oh, Michael Jordan, what's Michael Jordan doing with that team? He's running the ground. Blah, 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 blah. Michael Jordan running the team ground. He's not to be on blah, 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 all that. This is not the Dallas Cowboys, or as I like to call them, the Arlington football team. This is not a team. This is not the Miami Heat. This is a team who hires general managers and allows them to do their job and be the general manager. Now, did Michael Jordan have anything to do with James Borrego's firing? I believe he did. I believe that was a premature statement, not very wise, but that's what, they decided to do. I think things are crazy there. Stabilization needs to happen. Better players. And let's see what Big E has to say about this. So, most deaf man, I always got to throw the love. As for the Hornets, we've established that their bigger problem is at the higher level management, ownership, and back office. Okay. So this is what I want to say. I agree with the higher level management. I agree with back office. To an extent, I agree with ownership because ownership makes the decision. Ownership brings in the general manager. Ownership brings in those people. So I can agree on that level for ownership. But I think the problem is the high level management and the back office people. That's where I think that most of the issues belong. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have those guys right, what do you have? If you don't have the guys that can run the day-to-day organizations. Michael Jordan didn't buy the team to run the day-to-day operations. He didn't buy the team to make coaching decisions. He bought the team to own the team, to get his piece of the revenue, make money off of it, make it profitable. That's what he bought the team for. Now, if you want to argue that maybe he needs to get rid of some of the people in the front office and replace people, that I can't argue with. But for the job that they're doing, that's on Kupchak, that's on the back office, and the rest of the team, the talent scouts, all those guys are coaches to an extent. But now you're a cluster club because now you had a guy that was bringing the team along, loved being here, the community loved him. You fired him without probable cause, really. Then you turn around and do what? You try to bring in a guy that you think is going to be a big name. And then he's like, nah, I'm good. So without them, they lack the backbone and stability. That's true, Biggie. That's true. Definitely lack that stability and just somebody to stand up and say nah or whatever. Maybe Jordan does need to get involved to the extent of, look, man, this is a do or die year. You wanted the coach gone, or we agreed to get rid of the coach, whatever happened. You better show me something, or you're gonna be following him out the door. But maybe that's what's happening. Like, I don't know yet. We're still waiting on more information to come out. We'll see what happens with whoever else they're targeting. And I said Quentin Cook earlier. I meant Quentin Snyder. I apologize. The ex-coach of the Utah Jazz, who decided he was done with that team. Maybe he's a guy that they may be able to go out and convince to come. We'll see. But for me, 100% honest, the Hornets are in trouble. Every time they start to build, you start to tear it down when you add a new coach. You got a young team, you add a new coach. You got LaMelo, you got other pieces. You start to see them gel. You start to see things happen. You need a big. Instead of fixing all the problems and saying, hey, we're going to give you another year. We're going to fix some of these problems that you're complaining about. If you don't get it done, you're going to be out of here. You fire him a year early. You don't get a good replacement. You start the rebuilding process over. So kudos to the Charlotte Hornets organization, whoever's at fault, for essentially almost doing a hard reboot on your team when you have good talent. Not the wisest thing, but that's the decision that you've made. Unless you're going to go back and rehire James Borrego, you screwed that and you burnt that bridge. So it is what it is. But if I'm Kenny Atkinson, I wouldn't go from the world champs to a cluster club. And sorry, Charlotte Hornet fans, I live in the city of Charlotte, but you're a cluster club. Until you fix it, guess what you're going to be? A cluster club. And as a cluster club, guess what's going to happen? No one's going to want to come there as a player. No one's going to want to come there as a coach. If you're going to get players, you're going to overpay them because of your destination and because of the lack of consistency in your organization. You fix those things, you may start to get players. You've got a chip in Michael Jordan. You have something a lot of other people don't have. You have Michael Jordan as your owner, and you still can't get talent. That's like a look in the mirror at everybody's situation. Figure it out, fix the situation. Charlotte's better. The NBA is better when you have more competitive teams. Certain teams just don't do what's necessary to be competitors. Now, this is a very true statement. So for a lot of y'all that don't live in Charlotte, like me, I'm a Nuggets fan, right? I wasn't able to go when Denver came this year because they only come once a year, because of Western Conference team and whatnot. But that's pretty much the sad part about it, man. You see games packed when Charlotte's playing certain teams just because you come to see the other team. And see, that's the organization you don't want to be. Like, they've had opportunities to turn around. They've had slow progression, but then they just fall back. So for those of us that live in Charlotte but we're fans of the teams, it will be cheaper to get those tickets when those teams come to town. So I guess that's the positive out of the situation. Also, another quick story from the Hornets: Montrezl Harrell is being accused. I'm going to say now because I'm one of those people, as my co-host, that believe let's see the process play out before we assign blame. He's been accused of having over 3 pounds of marijuana, felony transportation charge in Kentucky. He's a guy that, kind of built himself up. He's from the rural part of North Carolina. We actually graduated high school in the same area. So I hope that these allegations against him aren't true. But it was found like in a backpack in the back of his car. So hope the allegations aren't true. But if they are, it sucks, man. I think that star players, and we talk about this all the time, but I just wanted to use this as another example. Be smart. I'm not going to tell somebody whether to do drugs or not. That's your decision to make. You shouldn't, but that's your decision. I'm not your father or anybody who has authority to tell you what to do. But be smart in whatever you do. If you drink, if you do drugs, if you smoke cigarettes, you smoke tobacco, whatever you do, you are a figure. People are watching you and saying, you know what? If we can get him, and not just necessarily you, but any NBA player, bench player, starter, whoever, if you can get that guy on these type of charges, you're going to do it and try to make examples of people. So be smart. Don't put yourself in these situations. So that's what we need to teach. And that's what these NBA players need to think about. Goes back to your circle, the people you're hanging around with, your friends. Why are they not saying, hey, bro, that's not a good move. Let's not do that. What are you thinking? You're an NBA star. You know what I'm saying? If anybody's going to do it, let me do it. If I get in trouble, whatever's whatever. You bail me out, if that's the way you want to roll with, just to be 100. But you should be making smarter decisions. Number one, I say you shouldn't be doing off. But if you are, you should not be connected. You are someone that, is a public figure. Be smart. NFL players, MLB players, soccer players, everybody, all the athletes and stars. Public figures, be smart. Be smart. Don't go out and get drugs, have drugs in your car. Why? Be smart. Use your brain. You got to think, man. You got to think. You got to do what's best for your career. You put yourself in jeopardy. You could be in jail for 5 to 10 years with the alleged charge, right? So don't put yourself in this situation. Don't put your family in that situation. Be smart. We're going to flip it up a little bit and have a quick break. We're going to hop back in, and then we're going to start putting the ribbon on the season, talking about the individual awards and the all defensive, all offensive, all rookie teams, that sort of thing, to finish out the show. So everybody stay tuned with me. Be back in 20 seconds. All right, everyone. Appreciate you hopping back in with me. Well, hanging in with me, I should say, through the commercial break. So back to it. Like I said, man, we're gonna hop through. We're gonna talk about a lot of the awards. So we're gonna start with the 2021 Kia Defensive Player of the Year. That was Marcus Smart. Smart's one of those guys, very good defensively, questionable at times offensively, but he brings a lot to your team. He's a guy you want to have on your team. He's a guy you want to help your team be successful and succeed. So, having Smart definitely is a smart thing to have Smart. We'll say it like that. Also, when you think about it, it makes sense how they got to the finals. It makes sense how they were the Eastern Conference champions with Marcus Smart because of defense, right? You had plenty of games where way more turnovers than necessary with Tatum and Brown, and other guys on the team, just reckless play. But Smart was able to help keep them in the game. Smart had a great, second half of the regular season. He started off pretty good as well, but he exploded with everyone else for Boston throughout the season when they started, that rise. So, I think a well-deserved reward for him for his regular season play. Touched on what he did in the playoffs just to accentuate why I feel it's a reasonable award. But this is a regular season award. So you may have someone you feel like did so much greater defensively in the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. This is, again, a regular season reward, which means anything that happened after the 82nd game of the season does not have any bearing on this award, period. All right. Scotty Barnes was the Kia Rookie of the Year winner. Great player, Florida State alum. Me being a North Carolina basketball fan, saw him a couple of times a year, watched him play just because of the fact that another ACC team. Did a lot for the Toronto Raptors. When he didn't play, you can see the difference. It's very easy to see Scotty Barnes games without Scotty Barnes, regular season, as well as playoffs. Bringing the playoffs just because a lot of these guys is consistency. If you're able to do it in the regular season, you don't get in the playoffs and just not do it anymore. But again, regular season award, game Scotty Barnes played in, he overtook and became the MVP, the Rookie of the Year. He wasn't the front runner, but he overtook the front runners and became that guy. And that's how you win awards. You're not always the guy that everybody's talking about, everybody's expecting, but you're the guy that gets it done. Because truthfully, end of the day, faces matter, where you came from, who you are, how much you're hyped coming out of college or whatever. But if you get on the field, whether you're hyped or not, you get on the court in this case, and you get it done, people are going to love it. If you get on the court and you don't get it done, bruh, people are going to back up off you. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to do it with you. So it's very simple. You win these awards on the court, you bring the recognition to yourself. The NBA is a player-driven league. The team does matter, but the player matters more. Toronto's been a solid team. Scotty Barnes, as well as some of the other pieces they have, are going to make this team, good and consistent for years to come. Will there be a team that does what they did with Kawhi again, win a championship? That we'll need to find out. That's going to depend on growth and development from guys like Scotty Barnes, as well as other guys on the team. Some guys are kind of getting a little bit longer too, so you're gonna have to make some switches, some changes to who's who. But that's part of it. But Scotty Barnes is a solid player. We're not going over a whole bunch of stats here. We're not doing that. This is not stat guy show, right? I got him, but that's not what we're about. So we're gonna stick to what we do. We talk about your play on the court, your impact on your team, how your team is without you, and this thing it's crazy called an eye contest. Scotty Barnes is a lone guy. He's a guy that looks like a versatile NBA player. He's a guy that looks like he's an all-star. Now, if he's going to maximize it or not, 1 year's not going to tell you yes or no. You can have the guys that had a horrible rookie season, get that work in, get over that rookie wall, come back for that second year, and look like a whole different player. Those guys normally stick in the league. The guys that sometimes have success in year one, whatever that definition is, depending on who you are, you still have to improve in year two. You can't regress. You always have to progress. Not going to say the name of the team or the coach, But there's this coach of a football team who always says 1% better every day. That's the mindset. Get better every day. That's how rookies become stars. That's how stars become superstars. That's how superstars become legends in the game. Period. So yeah, that's rookie of the year. Ja Morant, most improved player. This is the most questionable award for me. Shout out to Ja Morant for winning the award, first of all. But Ja Morant had a great rookie year, right? So my thing is, did a guy who had a great rookie year really do enough to be the guy who wins this award? Or should we have looked at guys who maybe did not have as good of a season and said, all right, you didn't really do too much your rookie year, but you really came on this year and you improved yourself in lots of statistical categories. I think those are the guys that we should have been looking at for most improved player. Not saying that Ja Morant did not improve, but Ja Morant still has improvement that needs to be done. And I think there were other guys that could have been more deserving of the award. But I mean, Ja did get better. Just I don't think at the same level because of how well he played his rookie year and how many games he missed this year on top of things to really say that he's the guy that should be there. That's just, again, that's an opinion, not a fact. But that's how I feel about, Ja Morant being, the most improved player. I think you could have actually given that award and it would have been more reasonable and feasible to the guy who ended up being the sixth man of the year, and that's Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero had a great rookie year. Tyler Hero had a trash sophomore year. Tyler Hero came back and had a much more rookie-like, as far as his numbers go, third year. Other guys came to the team. He was a sixth man, but he did his thing. We can't stand here and say that Tyler Hero did not hop on and do what he was supposed to do. Tyler Hero said, you know what? He said before the season started, he felt like he should be in talks with some of the other guys about getting these max deals. And he should be mentioning one of the best young players in the league. People laughed at the beginning of the year. Hey, I laughed. I said, bro, you're not going to get that after what you did last year. But he changed it. He came out. He changed the narrative on his career. He changed the narrative on his year from last year to this year. So, again, improvement, though. What we don't want from a guy like Tyler Hero now is year 4, he goes into a slump again. Continue to improve. So the thing is here, the truth is this. Basketball is a sport where you don't really want to dislike a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of people don't like, LeBron James. They don't like Draymond Green. They don't like this person, that person. But let's say 10 times out of 10, if that person goes to your team, you're going to love it, right? So I kind of look at it like you want people to develop. You want them to be the best version of themselves because you never know. They could end up on your team. They could end up being groomed somewhere else to become a big piece of your team. A la Aaron Gordon, with the Denver Nuggets. Started out somewhere else, came to Denver, brought the defensive intensity, brought those big buckets in the paint, the dunks, the high flying, the agility, athleticism that we were missing. He brought it. Simple. So you kind of want guys that can do things like that, and you want those guys to develop. And then also, man, you want the league to have faces, and I speak for myself when I say these things. But you want the league to have faces. You want guys to be like, oh yeah, that's Tyler Hero, that's Donovan Mitchell, you know what I'm saying? That's Jamal Murray, that's Nikola Jokic, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So guys have to develop to become that. You want competitive teams. How you get competitive teams? You get guys to play with. These are all things that you want to happen if you want to see the league be successful and grow. If you want to see those 2 new teams come in a couple of years, these are the things that you want to make happen for those possibilities. One of them's got to be Seattle. Supersonics got to come back if that does really happen. That's what's going on now. So we'll see if that's true, but that's what the word that's kind of sliding around is right now. So back to the lecture at hand. Tyler Hero, loving it. Congratulations. You earned the award. You were the guy. Scotty Barnes, same thing. Marcus Smart, same thing. Ja Morant, same thing. Like I said, I have my arguments as to why I think it should have been someone else, but it's not like there wasn't improvement in his game from last year to this year. I just don't think the same level as other guys. And I think that's why we need to be looking. Who's the definition of most improved player, in my mind, should always be the guy who improved the most from one season to the next season, statistical wise, maybe win shares for his team, all those things as well, but statistics as well have to play a part. That's just me. I'm not someone that votes on these things, at least not yet, but that's my thoughts. All right, so Monty Williams, Coach of the Year. What I think is so funny, people say, oh, I should have been this guy, should have been that guy. Monty Williams was the coach of the team with the most wins in the regular season. Again, these are regular season awards. Monty Williams has shown so far that he can't take the team to a championship. He can take you to the finals in certain situations, but not to a championship. So he gets you the number one seed consecutive years. I don't have a problem with him being coach of the year. There's other guys you can talk about. Oh, this guy took this team from here to there, blase this, blase that. But the coach for the best team, number one record in all of basketball, number one overall seed, number one seed in the West, I think you can give that guy the award, and it's not a problem. There should be no issue with that. So that's that. You know what I'm saying? So, shout out to Monty Williams. You deserved it for what you did. Now, to a man who was reviled by a lot of people for his success, and that's Nikola Jokic. You're back-to-back reigning and defending MVP. So there's arguments that can be made against Nikola Jokic being MVP. Are there not? Absolutely. And I've heard them all. Oh, the team, his team isn't this, his team isn't that, blah, blah, blah. Even though he's missing two guys, he should be able to win a series in the playoffs. Even though he's missing two guys, he should have a higher seed. His numbers, even though they were better than last year, that's because he didn't have other guys. He got more shots and blah, blah, blah. Just, I feel like a lot of, he shouldn't be the MVP conversations. That's how you feel, man. That's how you feel. It is what it is. Nobody's going to change the teams, man. The people who make the decisions decided he should be the MVP. And I'll tell you why. Some of the reasons the people actually try to say he shouldn't be. When you're head and shoulders above the rest of your team and you carry them on your back to a 6 seed where you don't have to be a part of the playing game, and you had the opportunity to go as high as 4 going into the last few weeks of the season, that's impressive. We can't name a lot of guys who've done that. I'm not saying you can't name anybody, but you can't name a lot of guys. The statistical numbers he put up, the first that he's had, we've all talked about him. We've all heard him. We're not going to go back over all those things again. He had a better season this year than his MVP season last year. Should Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid be included in a conversation? Yes, they should have been. Because they too had really great seasons. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, no. Tell you why. First of all, they cancel each other out. Second of all, they're both guys who show up at times and don't show up at times. And again, not a knock on anybody, but the truth is the truth. We have to be able to walk around here and tell the truth. And that's the truth. You need one of those guys to step up consistently. You believe it's going to be Derek. You believe it's going to be Devin Booker, but it hasn't been to this point consistently. So it's very simple. It's easy to understand. The MVP is the best player in the league. People want to add on the best team. There have been times before now where the best team didn't have the MVP. Maybe this be the first time where you had somebody that won the MVP from the position that he won it from. Yeah, from being the 6th seed, yeah. But it's extenuating circumstances. It's not the norm. So all I'm saying is look at it from the situation of this. We want the best player in the league to win their award. This past year, that was Nikola Jokic. A healthy Michael Porter Jr., a healthy Jamal Murray, maybe those numbers take a dip. Maybe he's not as valuable with both of those guys playing at top level. which we may or may not see next year. But he was the MVP. You know, I hate it for a guy like Joel Embiid. I like the fact that he's been relatively healthy the last few years. That process seems to have worked because it netted them him. But you just, I think you hurt your candidacy was hurt when you brought in James Harden. Just because a volume shooter, a guy that took shine away from the things that you did. But there's a whole lot you can go into for that. But if they had said Joel Embiid's the MVP, I'd be like, I think you picked the wrong guy, but I wouldn't be mad. Like, oh, I can't believe he won the MVP. Because at the end of the day, it's voted on by someone. There's not something that I say or something that you say or anyone else says that makes the determination. That's something that you have to go out there and earn. And I think there's 3 guys that can make an argument that they at least did their best to earn that. And one of those 3 guys won. So, what more do you want, right? You want someone that should win to win. We don't want to hear about a guy that we didn't know about that wasn't really in the conversation, come and fly out of nowhere and win the MVP award. You want it to be the guys you're talking about. And that's what happened. So, again, shout out to Jokic. Shout out to what he was able to do for his team. Much love, Nuggets fan, but even without that, put that to the side, it's still a matter of who's the best. And you have to honor that. You have to understand that. You have to say, okay, that's what we're going to rock with. And I feel like that's what happened in his case. Very happy for him. Very happy for the organization. And, I think that they're heading in the right direction. They're a team to watch out for next year, if they're healthy. So now we're going to move on here. And we're going to discuss all rookie first team. So all rookie team. Scotty Barnes, of course, your rookie of the year. Cade Cunningham was a guy that was in the conversation for, rookie of the year early on. Jalen Green, another guy that was in that conversation. Evan Mobley, I don't think was ever in the rookie of the year conversation, but definitely made a huge difference on Cleveland when he played. And then Franz Wagner. These are 5 guys that I think we can honestly say deserve to be there. I mean, Jalen Green, maybe the highlights, maybe the fact that he made the team at least exciting when he played, puts him there. Evan Mobley was a big contributor. Franz Wagner was a big contributor. Green did contribute, right? I mean, maybe not always points, but highlights and the attention that was paid to him. Cade Cunningham, we know what he did for Detroit. So these are all guys that, they did their thing for their teams. These aren't guys that you can argue they don't belong in this conversation. All right. Then we'll go to the second team real quick. That was Ayo Dosunmu from Chicago, Chris Duarte from Indiana, Josh Giddey from Oklahoma City, Nashawn Bones-Highland from Denver, and then Herbert Jones from New Orleans. So these were other guys that, as a rookie, they made contributions. So you think that you got to understand all rookie first and second team. You're looking at guys who, for the most part, are not starters or they're not stars once you get to the second team. Some of them are, but for the most part, you're looking at guys like Bones-Highland, Chris Duarte, even Herbert Jones, Josh Giddey. They contribute to their team, and Ayo Dosunmu. They contribute to the team in different ways. Some playing more minutes, some the points they give you in the minutes that they play, some versatility, able to play multiple positions. So a lot of different things. But I think these are 10 young men that definitely did what they needed to help their teams be better. You know what I'm saying? Breakdowns of the points, you can tell. These were the top 10 rookies, I would say, from the class. Other guys make contributions at times. Make an argue that you feel like there's another guy who should be in over one spot. But you can't say that these are not 10 guys. I don't believe you can say these are not 10 guys that did not make a big difference to their teams. Did not contribute, and they did not make their teams better. That's what you want. All defensive first and second teams. It won't take long. We know these guys. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Mikal Bridges, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., Marcus Smart. I love the inclusion of Jaren Jackson Jr. on the first team because I do believe defensively he does a lot as well as Gobert. Not as much offensively, kind of like Smart. Smart's one of those guys. I think the main guy on here that kind of is versatile is Giannis, and that's something that he's earned over the years, or learned over the years, I should say. You gotta put the L in there. Learned over the years how to be that guy. All defensive second team. Bam Adebayo from Miami, Draymond Green from Golden State, Drew Holiday from Milwaukee Bucks, Matisse Thybulle from Philadelphia, Robert Williams III from Boston. So interesting. Boston had someone on the first and the second team, as well as Milwaukee. Those were the two teams that had someone on all defensive first and second team. So we're seeing a pattern of teams that we anticipate being a very good team throughout the season, having those guys that are getting the individual awards, especially defensively, I'll be part of those teams. And I'll even go as far as to say other players that receive votes. So let's talk about some of these guys that other guys were chosen over. I think we can honestly and comfortably say that the right guys were picked. But let's just go over this real quick. So other guys that receive votes: Fred VanVleet, DeJounte Murray, Chris Paul, Patrick Beverley, Kyle Lowry, Alex Caruso, Gary Payton II, Derek White, Devin Booker, Ayo Dosunmu, Joel Embiid, Jared Allen, DeAndre Ayton, Evan Mobley, Herbert Jones, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, Scotty Barnes, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, OJ Anunoby, I believe that's how you say it, Anunoby, excuse me, Desmond Bane, Kevin Durant. So some of those guys I think deserve at least the votes. Some of the guys I don't think they deserve the votes. Not going to really get into, who's who of that. It's our show. We got about 12 minutes left. Got a little bit more to cover, so we're not going to do that. We're not going down those rabbit holes anymore. So we're also going to talk about, of course, All-NBA. All-NBA first team. So the All-NBA first team consists of Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic. I don't have a problem with anyone that was picked for the first team. I don't have a problem at all. All right. We're going to go to the All-NBA second team. Just waiting for it to pull up, guys. Yes. Steph Curry, John Morant, DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid. I'll say this. We're seeing Kevin Durant on a lot of these lists, and I'm not saying that Kevin Durant does not deserve to be on this list. What I am going to say is simply this. Kevin Durant missed a lot of games hurt. And I think, how can you be all defensive second team? This is, again, opinion. So you watch this as opinion. This is not a fact. How can you be second team if you're not playing in at least 2/3 of the games? Because how much of a defensive impact do you have if you're not on the floor? It's like saying Street Clothes Davis should be third team All-NBA, right? I'm just saying, not a knock on Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant does play defense, right? But I'm just saying, opinion. Third team, you got Chris Paul, Trae Young, LeBron James, Pascal Siakam, Karl-Anthony Towns. I feel like LeBron, third team, Brown Sixers are probably going to be upset because he's not first or second team. But I think him being included at all is due to name. And there's other guys. I'm not going to get into the names. Again, we're not going down those rabbit holes tonight. But I think there's other guys that you could look at and say, hey, this guy deserves that. And I don't believe that LeBron James deserved that spot. I would like to believe that for the most part, Chris Paul, questionable for me as well, on the third team. For the most part, we're giving spots to guys who deserve it. That's important. Guys work hard to get these spots. There's only 15 spots in the All NBA team, first, second, and third. First five, second five, third five. So that's an honor to have. But we need to start recognizing some of these honors need to go to people who've earned them on the court and not a name because we love that name. Chris Paul and LeBron James are long in the tooth by any guesstimation or estimation. We need more from those guys. We have to get more from those guys. So I simply say, congratulations to the guys who won. But at the end of the day, new blood is needed. And a more of an influx of new blood is needed. We can go over the fan favorites. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're just going to quickly take a few minutes here, and we're going to talk about what we saw in the regular season. The playoffs were the playoffs. Great playoffs. There's been a lot of coverage of that. Let's go back and do a quick recap of the regular season. Starting the Eastern Conference. Regular season, Miami Heat. They won a top seed. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. 53 wins. Boston and Milwaukee and Philadelphia tied at 51-31. Boston, due to tiebreakers, got the number 2 seed. Milwaukee got the number 3 seed. Philadelphia got the number 4 seed. Toronto was 5th. Chicago Bulls were 6th. Those are your teams that made the playoffs right flat out. Brooklyn and Atlanta, Cleveland and Charlotte were the 7, 8, 9, and 10 teams. We know how that played out. A lot of people, including my co-host, don't like the playing game. But I tell you who does like the playing game. The Cleveland Cavaliers and the Charlotte Hornets. Because this allowed their teams to get another game, the fans, and for them to be able to say that they made the playoffs. You can argue if you want about your feelings on the play-in, but it's not going your way. So adapt to it and adjust to it. It's not going away. You are going to have to do what you need to do, get in that play-in and win in order to make the playoffs. You're a 7 or 8 seed, you're not guaranteed a playoff spot anymore. If your team is 7 or 8 and they lose, then yeah, you got a problem with that. But if your team is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, you don't have a problem because you're not even worried about it. And if you're 9th or 10th, you love it. 2 teams are going to be mad about this every year. It's whoever's 7th, 8th, because you don't automatically get it anymore. Personally, I think this whole thing was started to get Zion Williamson into the playoffs with the New Orleans Pelicans, and they're still not making it in. Call it a mini conspiracy theory, but I'm going to rock with it. It's never going to change. Bottom of the East. New York Knicks, Washington Wizards, Indiana Pacers, Detroit Pistons, Orlando Magic. I'll tell you from these teams, the team I expect to make the most movement next year, there's actually 2. That's Chicago Bulls and the Brooklyn Nets. Nets were hurt, limped into the playoffs, or limped through most of the season. And this whole foolishness with Kyrie and him not getting vaccinated. So I think if you take that away from Brooklyn, and Chicago does not have the Lonzo Ball as well as other injuries, these are 2 teams that are going to catapult upward next year. I expect Milwaukee to be a little bit better because I think they coasted some this year, only got 51 wins. I think they understand it's important to get that number 1 seed, and I think they're going to be more motivated now that they lost to get that number 1 seed, home court advantage. I think Miami is going to take a little bit of a dive as well as Boston, but not too much. They'll still be in the playoffs. I think they'll still be top 6. It'll just be a difference. Toronto is the questionable team, and I think the team is going to have to move down to allow a team like Brooklyn, maybe even Cleveland, to make that come up. So, that's my thing. I don't think any of the bottom teams are really going to get better in the East. I don't know what's going on with New York, but they just can't have 2 good years in a row. Really disappointing. I thought that they would at least be in the play-in game, but no such luck for them. We'll hop over to the Western Conference. Phoenix Suns, 64 wins, most wins in the league. Memphis Grizzlies, I think a couple of years ahead of schedule, number 2 seed, 56 wins. Golden State, 53 wins, dealing with some injuries and Clay coming back. which is something I want to save just for this moment. Shout out to Klay Thompson. I don't think he's 100% this year. I think if he's 100%, you get more out of Klay. I think being off 2 years with the injuries he had, maybe some of his explosiveness never comes back. Maybe some of his athleticism never comes back. It wasn't all there this year, but I think he'll be in better shape, better conditioning, and better ready for another season come this year. So shout out to him for sticking it in. Shout out to him for coming back and at least being able to do what he could do on a shortened season and into the playoffs, with those injuries. So, big ups to him. I like to celebrate, when people play well, when people come off injuries and they're able to kind of get back to at least some form of who they used to be. So big ups to Klay. I believe we're going to see more from him next year, which is going to make Golden State more dangerous. Dallas Mavericks, 4th, 52 wins. Utah, 49 wins, 5th. Denver, 48 wins, 6th. So you look between Golden State and Denver, 5 wins. That's the difference. 5 wins. 5 wins would have got you from 6 to 3. Crazy. Minnesota, 46 wins. New Orleans, 36 wins. Clippers, 42 wins. San Antonio, 34 wins. And, of course, this is in the order of where they ended up, including the playoffs, like placing the playing games. Again, if you're Denver, Utah, Dallas, Golden State, Memphis, Phoenix, it's whatever with the play-in. Minnesota and New Orleans, you're a little unhappy. The Clippers and San Antonio, well, actually, Minnesota and LA Clippers, you're unhappy, especially Clippers because you lost. But San Antonio slid in there thanks to the late season collapse of the Lakers. They ended up with 33 wins, the Lakers. Sacramento 30, Portland 27, Oklahoma City 24 wins, and the Rockets 20 wins, worst in the league. So I think you're going to see improvement from the Rockets next year because I think they're going to use draft picks and make some moves in free agency now that they've freed up a little cap space with the Christian Wood move. Oklahoma City, I still think is going to need more time. Portland's going to depend on Lillard and free agents or trades. Sacramento, I'm surprised they were even 12th. Lakers should be in the play-in at least next year. San Antonio and the Clippers got some work to do. New Orleans, if Williamson is healthy, we're having a different discussion. We're at least seeing them, I think, as a top 60 if Zion Williamson is healthy. Minnesota surprised me. I think they're a team that can stay there and continue to do what they do. Denver, I think, is going to catapult themselves up into the top 2-3 next year. Memphis, I think, is going to hang around there. Golden State. Phoenix is going to fall. I think Utah is going to fall as well. That's, my opinion on what we're going to see happen next season. So a lot of other things could be talked about the NBA this past year, but got a full season in. A lot of the people that were mad because they were focused on things like Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, because of things that were happening to specific groups of people. Those fans are able to come back happily because those things weren't a focus this year. They were good for the bubble. They were good for, kind of easing back into things last year. But it's a corporation. People start getting on social media and talking about how they don't want to watch that mess and it's not what they signed up for. Obviously, it's going to stop. You know why it's going to stop? Because the people who make the decisions are basically saying, look, we want the funds. We want the coinage, the cash. The dividends is what they talk about. So anytime you affect that bottom line, the NBA is going to adjust. That bottom line was affected, no doubt about it. And the NBA is going to adjust, no doubt about it. They did. We got back to more semblance of a regular season, more semblance of a regular world. Still some issues with COVID and different things, but much more along the lines of what we expect. So, again, shout out to the NBA, shout out to all the teams, all the players, guys that won awards, guys coming back from injuries, guys that kind of did what they do. Obviously, co-host is not here this week, so shout out to him as well. See this replay, scroll down to the bottom of this page, go to Eagles Elite Podcast, and be elite for Eagles fans. It's all about being elite, baby. A lot of people that support this show, thanks to you all. Some are people that support us for different reasons, but whatever your reason, friend, you just came across, you like it, whatever, man, we appreciate it. Every single person, and we want it to continue. So next week and moving forward, we'll be back on at our regular time. That's going to be on Friday nights. Be ready. Check us out. Appreciate you. And one more time, anybody who tunes in later watching the replay, y'all know who we are.
Play Commerce.